What's up, Plebheads? I'm Neo. And I am joined here today by my main man, my brother, and my fellow monster hunter,
Jdog.
Hop in the screen a little bit better, Jdog. And we are here tonight. This is kind of like doing a live stream style in case anybody would want to jump in and discuss this with us. But what did we decide we were going to do this first video on?
Well, we wanted to talk about the different weapons that we're going to have access to in the upcoming Monster Hunter Worlds. Obviously, this is a game we're both really excited for.
Very, very excited for.
And getting ready now as we count down the days until the live beta, which is going to be on December 9th.
December 9th on PlayStation only.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is a PlayStation exclusive beta, from what I've heard.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, I think that's totally awesome.
So we'll definitely be playing that, no doubt. So that's less than a month away. And I figured we would just have a quick discussion here about the different weapons that are available.
What do you want to do? Top 3 favorite weapons for each of us, and then we'll maybe talk about some of the other ones as well, and really use in some situations that they can be very useful.
Sure, let's do it.
Sure, I think that's what we should do. So go ahead. Number 3 favorite weapon in Monster Hunter of all time. Jdog, go. Third favorite weapon of all time.
Dual blades?
Yeah, that's a fair.
Yeah,
for
me.
That's a fair call for you because you've used them before,
Yeah,
but it's not your go-to weapon.
It's not my go-to. I like the dual blades. They're incredibly fast, right? They provide a good sense of like movement with them, so I like that. I like their attack combo as well, and just kind of the cadence of the weapon. So it's not a weapon I use a ton, but it is one I like, especially if I'm playing with a group of maybe more guys that are wanting to use long-range weapons. I'll play that once in a while just to be like a very forward player, a more attack-centered player.
So you can get in, hit him, and get out.
Yeah. So I don't mind that weapon. Like I said, I don't use it every time, but I have used it on occasion, and it's a good third choice.
So dual blades for you?
Dual blades, third choice for me. Yep.
And insect glaive for me.
Yep.
So
I remember
insect
you
glaive,
using that.
I use that a lot in Generations, and so for me, the insect glaive is kind of a special weapon because the first time I used it, I was just like, "What the hell am I even doing with this thing?" After watching some of the weapons gameplay now from the recent trailers from Capcom for Monster Hunter World, I am really excited because you can be all over the place with that thing, and you can air juggle yourself and stay in the air and hit him and roll over and hit him again and zoom over there and hit him again. I like the agility built into that weapon, and I'm really excited for some possibilities with it as we move forward.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at the aerial combat in this new Monster Hunter game, and I think that could open up opportunities with some of these weapons that maybe we don't use as often. Using the handhelds was really a challenge to do a lot of airborne sort of stuff.
I agree.
And what we're seeing in some of the demos here, I think the insect glaive is showcased. I think maybe the dual blades as well. Just the incredible dynamics and acrobatics that are a part of the aerial combat in this game, or the way that you can control your character in the air, really looks interesting and really looks cool.
I agree 100%.
So I think it's definitely something we're going to have to see. That's why I think the beta is going to be so important, to really kind of get our hands on that, which I'm pretty excited for.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, Jdog. We talked about our number 3. Go ahead. Number 2 favorite weapon in the Monster Hunter series of all time. Take it away.
I think number 2 for me is actually Sword and Shield.
Even though that's a weapon that you almost exclusively used in 4U and Generations.
Yeah, I used it a lot. I got really good with it. I like it for a couple of reasons. It's very dynamic. You don't have to sheath your weapon as often. It allows for quick movement. And it also allows for really rapid attacks on big monsters. So you're able to place yourself. I remember fighting a lot of the larger monsters. You actually place yourself kind of in their feet, kind of by their back by their ankles, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'd be able to wail on them 1, 2, 3, 4, spin. 1, 2, 3, 4, spin. While these monsters were, one of the things we used a lot was high-grade earplugs.
Yep.
I remember using that
Absolutely.
almost exclusively because the monster would roar, and he would spend, 5 seconds in that roaring animation. Well, you wouldn't be affected by it. So you could go up there and stand right next to him, 4 or 5 hits. I used it with slime quite a bit. So I was able...
No, we don't say abused. You abused it with slime.
Sure.
I mean, you really did. You dominated with that weapon.
So I was able to build it up, and then you start doing the explosions, and you do it on their ankles.
It's like they couldn't get out of their own way.
And you'd end up knocking the monsters over quite a bit. So I had very good success with that weapon. Became very adept at knowing... it had a jumping attack to get in on him. You could do like the little jump leap.
What was that? I think it was... I'm not going to know that. I'm not going to know the buttons right on the 3DS. I think it was X and Y together. You do the jumping slash.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. It's been a long time since we played. But I remember being able to use that and then go right into the combo and then do the turn. You might even hit him with your shield technically. I don't know. But you do that, and then you could roll out of there.
You would do like the
boom,
punch
boom,
with the shield,
boom.
and then you do like the smash and the
and then you could roll out of there. And by the time the monster knew you were there, you were 5
hits in and gone. Halfway back to Broadway.
Yep, and you were safe. So then the monster's turning towards you, and that allowed one of your teammates to get in. I played Monster Hunter a lot with teammates. I rarely played it alone. So most of my skills and most of my skill set ended up being, what works well with others.
Well, I remember a lot of times I would just play Monster Hunter on your 3DS for you, so you could get further in the game and unlock some farming abilities and some other stuff that you didn't have unlocked because you didn't want to play by yourself.
So I think we're going to talk about that in some of the other videos that we're going to do here about how I think they're changing that for the better. I always felt that was a kind of annoying, right? Like if you wanted to play Monster Hunter and you wanted to play it co-op, but then you couldn't have access to better growing and things because you didn't do the single player stuff. I always felt very like that was a very stifling part of that game and very I don't know if I want to say unfair because that might not be right, but
definitely feel held back by it.
Yeah, it was like Monster Hunter to me has always been a cooperative game.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be fun alone for me personally. I probably wouldn't play it if it was alone. But I always enjoyed it with others. So the Sword and Shield also, it plays well with others because it doesn't have the long sweeping, attack ranges of other weapons.
Yep.
And
you can use items with the weapon equipped. You don't have to sheath the weapon.
Yep. That's kind of a nice perk. But you also, some of these monsters, they have the big, long, they have the real hard scales, right? Or they have the really thick armor on their backs. So some of the other weapons are going to do the overhand attacks, you're going to do the big long sweeps, and you're going to bounce off of them, especially early in the game when you don't have the great sharpnesses. You don't have the white, purple sharpness, whatever. You do a lot of bouncing. That happens to me with the longsword a lot. But this one, you can kind of get right up, hit them in the underbelly a lot, and you're able to do some a little bit better no bouncing damage that way. So I find a lot of utility in the Sword and Shield personally. Weapon I really liked, and like I said, it plays well with others.
Well, I think that's important because Monster Hunter, for us, maybe not for everybody, but Monster Hunter for us is a multiplayer experience. We don't really have a reason to play it by ourselves. I play Generations by myself just because I wanted to feel like I was getting my my purchase worth.
Yeah.
Because I bought the new 3DS XL for it, I bought all that stuff for it, and we never played it. So I played it single player just to feel like I got my money's worth. But looking back on it, Monster Hunter has, just like you said, it's always been a team experience for us. And sometimes we play with teammates that are team players, and sometimes we play with teammates that don't know how to play the weapon they're playing. Yeah. So I think that all plays in, and it affects your team, and that's why having a weapon like Sword and Shield that is so agile and so versatile, I think that's really very, very important. I suppose you want to know my number 2.
Always.
God, it's a toss-up. It is a hard toss-up for me. My number 2 favorite weapon, Monster Hunter of all time, has got to be the Gun Lance. Because it is a weapon that I initially counted out as useless. and I had some time. I got some time in playing with Fumi, playing with Jeremy, and he used it. I was like, why the hell are you using the gun lance? This is such a useless weapon. He's like, you got to try it. He's like, you got to try it. And of course, I just counted it out as trash. And I played with it, and all of a sudden I'm playing gun lance, like almost exclusively on 4U. I had so much fun playing the gun lance because you have so many different combinations. First of all, you have the shield and you have the weapon. So it's like the lance, but it doesn't have the charge attack, and it doesn't have like maybe the sweeping brush attack, but it does have the straight stab, the upward stab, and you can follow both of those up with a canister shot, a shell shot, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when your weapon is cooled down and when your weapon is ready, you can hit him with a Wyvern's Fire Blast. And if you hit him with the full combo, you get the big slap in there where you bring it down, you slap it down, and if you fire all your shells at once in a big barrage. It's really cool. It does a ton of damage. It's good for hacking away big chunks of health early on against most monsters.
Yep. Plus, it gives you a little range.
It does. It does. A little bit of range. Not it's not like bow or bowgun or anything. But I have to say, oh man, dude, it really changed how I felt about gun lance. Because like I said, I initially was like, this sucks. Don't waste my time. Get this piece of trash out of here. Play a different weapon. Actually do something. Actually help us win instead of playing around. And it was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. And I openly admit that.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic.
Yeah, you were pretty good with it.
Oh my god, it was a great, great weapon. And when you hit them with that Wyvern's Fire, they would just topple, and then everybody would jump in and just gang beat them and gank them. And of course, everybody knew their place. The hammer users were on the head, the blade users were on the tail, and maybe some of the other intermediate weapons were going for the body. So we weren't hitting each other, we weren't breaking each other out of our combos, and we felt like we had a strategy. We felt like we were playing as a team.
Yep.
But the gun lance surprised me, and it very, very, very quickly beat out the greatsword as my number 2 favorite weapon of all time.
Wow.
Because that was my initial number 2 was the greatsword.
Yeah.
Yep. Jdog, your number 1 go-to, must-play, no exceptions weapon of all time in Monster Hunter. Go.
Longsword.
Why? Wait, longsword with or without the new power-up abilities that they gave it?
Oh, with.
Because it didn't used to have that.
Yeah, no, with the power-up abilities, with the charge meter.
Okay.
Right.
Otherwise, would it have been sword and board?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, those two would have been switched otherwise?
Yeah, probably switched them. So the new power-up abilities really make the longsword an excellent choice. It's a weapon that I really like. One of the things in Monster Hunter is some of the monsters, and at least this is true for the handheld versions, they're hard to get right next to with the sword and shield. They're really tough to hit.
And sometimes when they step, if you're standing next to them, their little claw hits you and does like a speck of damage.
Or they have obnoxiously small legs for how big their body is.
Yeah.
And with the sword and shield, because of the way you swing and because of how small your character is, you've got to be next to their feet to hit them.
Devil Joe.
Well, the way these monsters move, they're freaking all over the place.
They are, I agree.
So the longsword, I think, is one of the most versatile weapons. It's one of the most versatile weapons for damage.
Good.
And for being able to hit monsters of all varieties.
Yes.
It also has an awesome combo. The unsheath attack, right? Attack, and then the swing back
Big
attack.
swing and hop back.
To hop back.
And then spin.
You can even poke them. You can
and
do
then
a little
you can
poke.
upward stab.
Yep.
And then you can spin again.
And then spin
then
back
you
again.
can slash, paddle, and big cut. And then you do the spinning slash to do your power up.
If you have the power up.
So, I mean, you can really unload with that weapon.
So the way that weapon works, as you get into the higher levels, right, the monsters really become aggressive, right? And you rarely, until you start to knock them over, at least when you're initially in the fight, you're rarely going to have time to do 10 swings without getting hit, right? Yeah. So when you're fighting a fully, angered monster, when you can come in with the unsheath attack into attack, swing back, right? And then that pulls your character out of the fight. That gives you a defensive advantage. I really, really like that about the sword. Or I'm sorry, about the longsword.
I want to just break from your discussion for just a moment to welcome Orc Luck to the stream. Talking about how they're looking forward to playing with the greatsword. It is a fantastic weapon and one of our favorites. Unfortunately, it didn't make our top 3. It was beat out by me by the gun lance, but only because I recently discovered how much I love that weapon. But yes, the greatsword. Let's not discredit that weapon. How
Well, you
fantastic.
use that a lot.
Oh my god! And I didn't just use it. I abused it. You hit that trip charge, and when you get rushed, you bring that down right on the tip of their head, and it does extreme damage.
Yep. So, Orc, with the greatsword, the thing you're looking for is to be able to position correctly for that trip charge.
Triple
which he's
charge
talking
cut
about.
to the head, any appendages, horns, anything like
Or the
that.
tail, if you
or
want to cut
of
the tail.
course the tail.
Yeah.
And that I found that to be such. Initially, again, it was another one of those weapons that I was like, God, this is just kind of dumb. But then it's like they have the slash, and then like you get them with like the quick hit right away. And I thought that was really cool how they added in those little pops with some of those bigger weapons.
Orc, have you played any of the other Monster Hunters on the handhelds?
And while we're waiting for Orc to respond, I want to go back to what we were discussing for a moment here.
See, what I think the longsword, for me, the reason that weapon, I enjoy it so much, you get that, and especially with the power-up, right? When you have that fully built up and you can unleash that, you're getting incredible damage, but you're still getting the movement and the quick attacks that you're maybe not getting with the greatsword as much.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So that's why that weapon really works well. What's the first monster? Is that on the one on PS2?
PlayStation 2, yep. PlayStation 2, yep.
Okay, so
you're definitely taking a
you
bit
have
of a
that-
generation, excuse the pun,
Yeah.
you're taking a bit of a generation jump here from PlayStation 2 Monster Hunter up to Monster Hunter Worlds on PlayStation 4, Xbox.
PS2, yeah, okay.
Yeah, wow,
So
that is
going to be a huge, I think, step up in quality.
Oh, absolutely. I think
Orc.
you really like it. I think you really like it. But, that's the thing. Now, hey, you know what? While we're at it, let's go to our wild card weapon. We're going to talk about the greatsword. I think that's important.
all right.
So, the triple charge attack just does heinous amounts of damage. And you can see that's visible anytime where you hit a monster in the head or a weak point with that triple charge, or even like a double charge or a single charge.
They'll rear back.
They rear back, they stagger, they stun, they fall over. It's just ridiculous how much damage that weapon does. And it's really I don't know, like I remember playing with that weapon in 4U a lot and thinking to myself, if this weapon was just a tad faster, it would be overpowered.
It would be.
It would be unfair. So, it's like when I play with the hammer, I make the hammer, which is typically a slower paced weapon, not saying it can't be used quickly. I make the hammer look fast.
Yeah.
I'm so good with the hammer. It's a weapon I've been using forever. So, yeah, I agree.
What does he mean here?
There's a solar dash to weave in if you're about to get rushed during a charge. I like that. So instead of just sitting there and charge, you can actually I think there's a move to break that charge.
Oh, okay.
Which is, about time.
Well, this is what we're seeing with the upcoming Monster Hunter Worlds is just like basically
Quality of life things.
quality
really
of life and just making this like as a dynamic of experience. We have not seen anything yet that has made us question it, so to speak.
It's made us really go, oh.
We've watched probably just about every video there is to watch on the game, I think.
Yeah, we have a few to do yet, but definitely, I agree.
And we're really liking the dynamicism of the combat.
Absolutely.
That's probably the number one thing we're noticing.
And one thing that we discussed in some previous videos, everybody has their place. Very, very important. Don't just want it to be a mob fest where you run in there and mug everybody. You can't just stand on top of each other and swing your weapons. You have to position yourself properly, and I think that's important when you're playing Monster Hunter.
And it looks like the monsters too have that quickness of movement.
Absolutely.
And that ferocity that we. What's the slinger?
Slinger is like everybody gets a slinger now. You can shoot like nuts and stuff at the monsters and hit them.
Are you serious?
You can drop stuff on the monster. Yeah, it's really cool. Very cool.
Well, Orc, I got to be honest. I'm not aware of this.
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about the slinger. We haven't really checked it out that much, but we could probably end up doing.
Have they had this in the gameplay videos?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
What is like a slingshot?
It's called a slinger. Slinger shoots like you can gather nuts and stuff, and you can fire them and sling them at them. Yeah, it's really cool. You can hit the monster. You can knock stuff down on them. all that
Well,
stuff.
we saw where they toppled the one in the one trailer. They
but you
toppled
didn't topple a stalactite with a slinger. I mean, come on, let's be
But that was cool as hell,
Yeah,
though.
well, that's cool as hell. Definitely. Slinger is. I think that remains to be seen how useful that's going to be or how relevant that's going to be until we actually.
So what?
get our
Everybody's
hands on
got
it.
a ranged weapon now.
Everybody has a weapon that can like fire these little nuts or like.
Does that allow you to like change the aggro of the monster or what? Because I'm trying to figure out how the nut. What is that going to do? 5 damage? No damage?
Couple damage, 2-3 damage. Good damage. Hit them, get their attention.
What are your thoughts on it, or
Yeah, we want to know what your thoughts are. Definitely weigh in the comments.
help
and let
me
us
with
know.
that because I'm not 100% familiar with what you're talking about.
And to our viewers on YouTube, as we'll be putting this video onto YouTube, what do you think about the new slinger that they've introduced in Monster Hunter Worlds? What are your thoughts on it? How useful do you think it'll be? And what are some of the uses that you can see there being for it?
What I can see it for is like aggro changing, right? Because you know how the monster basically switches from each character pretty much based on who hit him last or whatever.
Yeah.
Or so that's where I can kind of see it being used well.
Absolutely.
I
I would like to see you be able to actually pull a monster's aggro off of somebody mid attack. That could
Well,
be not just constantly,
Yeah.
but once in a while, if you hit them at the right time or hit them in the right place, you pull them over to you. I'd like to see that be a thing. That could be really cool.
David and Goliath style, like you hit him in between the eyes with like a little pea pod, and he's like all stunned.
Yeah, and he falls over. That'd be
Oh,
great.
I
mean, it could
I don't
be
know
cool.
about
I don't know
that.
if I'd like it to be all the time. But
I
that
don't.
could be cool.
I don't want it to be overpowered by
No,
any
I don't
stretch.
either. I don't think it will be overpowered.
The only thing I could see it maybe being good for, if it works like you're talking about, is like I said, you got a guy that's really getting kind of, pressured by the monster pretty significantly, and the other teammates could use the slinger to get that monster's attention and let their teammate recover. That's where I see it being.
I think there's a lot of usefulness for the slinger in interacting with your environment. I don't think it's just for interacting with the monster, which of course you can interact with the monsters with it. But I think interacting with your environment, I've seen some environmental interactions in their trailers. I'd have to go back and watch it again to pull out some specifics, but I do remember seeing that, breaking things and knocking things over. And
just for like for gathering more or knocking honey out of the trees and shit like that.
I mean, hey, maybe we don't have our hands on the game yet. It'd be sweet if we did, but
yeah, it's hard to say. I'm not sure what to think about that, to be honest with you.
But I think
there's so many questions in our heads still about exactly how the whole experience is going to work. It doesn't seem to me like it's going to be like, basically it was hub, gather, fight, right? In every quest you did in the handhelds anyway, right? You start at the hub, you'd eat and do all this stuff. You go into the thing, you'd go to a couple of the areas, you'd gather, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I see some really positive changes in the new Monster Hunter world, and I like the fact that we have this slinger, that we have this ability to interact with the environment.
Orc. So what will it do for the sword and shield user? If that's what it's supposed to be for, what will that allow for them?
And while we're talking about that, let me just move on to my number one weapon here while we're having this big weapons discussion now. Awesome. Anybody that wants to weigh in on the slinger, feel free to let us know in the comments. Tell us what you think and what you've seen.
And if you know where there's actually a video of this, post it as a comment so we can check it out, because I'm just not
You can always check it out. That's fine.
specifically familiar with it.
My number one favorite weapon of all time, as you know and as you've seen me play multiple hundreds of hours with it specifically, the hammer.
Yep.
It's a weapon that I just, I was playing with my friends, and they immediately knew that I would be using the hammer. There was never any questions of what weapon I was using.
Oh.
I would always use it to knock monsters out. I'd always use it to knock their feet out from under them. I'd always use it to hit quick combos with it and stun them, specifically on the head. And it was really just a power weapon for us. And I feel like there was definitely a lot of victories that we had that could easily be attributed to the fact that the monsters spent most of the fight on the ground, dazed and stunned, and knocked out.
Yeah,
Especially once I got Knockout King.
Because I was using, like the bladed weapon, so that was like the slash weapon, right?
Yep.
You brought the blunt damage.
Yep.
And when you're hitting them on the head with blunt damage, it just seems like there was no monster that could withstand that.
Not really.
Not the way you triple charge and you do those huge cutters and smash them on the face. I mean,
And even once Dan brought the hunting horn into the fold, sure he's doing the boost for us, but he's also doing that big uppercut swing with the downward swath.
Yep.
And I mean, dude, I remember us knocking monsters out probably 4 or 5 times in a fight.
Yeah.
And at the end of the fight, I was just like, did that thing even hit us?
yeah.
Like, it was just crazy sometimes.
Yep, so having that blunt damage, having those different damage types, I think is really awesome.
Definitely.
Now, what Orc is saying here, so Orc, just to respond to your last point there, where you say about the use the items easier. For me personally, as somebody that used the sword and shield a lot, I always found myself sheathing the weapon because I wanted to use the unsheath attack when I started. It was kind of like a leaping attack, and so I got really, really good with the timing on that attack. So I didn't necessarily have my weapon unsheathed a lot, at least on the handheld versions. And one of the reasons for that is you couldn't run as well, if I remember right. The running, it wasn't as fast. So I would sheath the weapon, I would avoid the monster, and then I would run in with a unsheath attack into a combo. And that's where I had my best effectiveness. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how item usage is kind of worked out and balanced in this new game. Something we're not certain about yet. And it's hard for me to comment on it right now as to whether it'll be a game changing.
I don't know if it'll be as hard for us to comment on it once we get to December 9th. To get our hands on the beta.
Obviously.
So I want to answer a question that I've been asked in the live stream. Of course, for those of you watching on YouTube, it's pre-recorded. But I want to answer a question I've been asked on the live stream. How do I feel about the hunting horn as compared to the hammer? Now, I feel like this is a really good question.
It is a good question.
Because they both have their merits, where the hunting horn has some very sweeping attacks, some very methodical attacks, as well as the boosts. And the triple stab, which is fine. I've used the hunting horn. I never once used the hunting horn for the boosts. And I feel like if you're going to play hunting horn, that is the reason you're playing hunting horn.
Yeah, I feel like it's a support weapon.
I'm not going to trash the hunting horn because that's not what this video is about. However, I feel like if you're comparing hammer to hunting horn, you're not comparing the weapons fairly.
Yeah.
Because though the hunting horn does have an incredible, and I'll say it again, an incredible big power slam, awesome attack, just wicked sick attack, and it has the bam, 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 the butt of the staff stab to the monster. It just doesn't have the pound, pound, pound upswing. It doesn't have the spinning attack. It doesn't have the jumping meteor spin attack. It doesn't have any of that. So the hunting horn, for me, like you said, has always been a support weapon.
Yep.
I've used them all. I've used all of the different weapons, and I went from hammer one time to hunting horn because, a big blunt thing, I can hit him in the head with this conch shell. It'll do a ton of damage. I found it being a very big cut, swing, roll, move around, wait for an opening, big cut, swing. Oh, they're on the ground, stab, stab, stab. Like, that was all I ever did, and it was very slow-paced for me, whereas with the hammer, I was all over the place.
You had the small
side swing,
the side swings with the hammer. That was really
hold the
good.
charge for 1-2, run towards him, uppercut attack, all that stuff. Really, just a very, for me, the hammer is a very fast-paced, slow weapon.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen me use the hammer, and I know anybody who's really good with hammer can attest to this. If you've ever played with somebody that is really legit with the hammer, they'll make it just as fast as short sword and shield. They make it just as fast as long sword or gun lance or lance or any of those other weapons.
Yep.
The hunting horn, I always felt kind of like I was in quicksand when I was using it.
Yeah, I liked having somebody in our group that was using the hunting horn, though.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like, we're sitting here kind of talking about the hunting horn not being as quick or as good of a weapon, but whenever we were in a group and somebody had a hunting horn, I was always like, oh, good, we have a guy with the hunting horn.
And now let's hope they know how to use it.
Because we were going to get the boost if they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, let's hope they don't
Health
come in here
boosts, right?
and not use any notes. They're only in here attacking them with it. Well, why are you playing the hunting horn? Go get a greatsword. Mm-hmm. If you just want to do slow-paced attacks, go get a greatsword. Because I have a hammer, I have a blunt weapon, we don't need a second one. Mm-hmm. Just play some notes, give us the boost. And like that was really important as we built our team and as we began feeling out how we felt about different weapons. Because weren't we just talking with Dan Van this past weekend? He asked us, guys, do you want me to still use the hunting horn?
We both said yes.
Yeah, we do. Because we do. I mean, it's important to have that support. You know, it's like having a bow gun user that knows how to use the weapon or a bow user that knows how to use the weapon. It's very important that you have those two.
Oh, cool.
That's cool. I like that. I agree. I think that's really cool. Now you can store these notes and you can store these actual builds of notes and go on hitting the mobs and monsters instead. I like that, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like that'll be
I think
be a good way to make the hunting horn a better weapon, a more useful weapon.
So they want to probably balance, and that's what I think we're seeing here from some of these comments is like, it's like you take every weapon and they're trying to say, okay, what do people like about this? What do they not like about it? And what can we do to make it so that people want to use all the weapons? And that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of got me really excited.
For me in Monster Hunter, it was always like 4 or 5 different weapons that I was really great with.
Yep.
And then here's a couple that I'm, well, okay, whatever. Who cares? This sucks. I'm not going to use it.
The thing is, I feel like every weapon can be good when used properly, right?
Yes.
I don't really feel like there's a bad weapon, but you know, it depends on your playstyle, it depends on the group you're playing with, and it depends on what people are expecting, right, from you as a player. Yep. And that's just something that you kind of learn as you play.
My thing's always been this. When I play in a group, I typically just call, okay, I'll go heavy attack. Greatsword, hammer.
Yep.
Or gun lance. One of the 3. That's what I'm playing. Stay out of my way. I mean, you know it. You've seen it. Dan knows it. Dan has seen it. So I always say, okay, so what are you guys going to bring to the table? You're going to bring sword and shield? Great. Go for the feet. Knock them over.
Well, and I think that's what always worked good. Like when we'd just play, together.
You knock them over at the feet, I'll knock them out at the head.
Or I was just more simple than that. You're at the head and I'm at the feet. So we're out of each other's way and we're both still able to do damage and avoid attacks. Yeah. For the most part.
Very important.
So together as a group, because of the weapon choices we had, it worked really good, right?
I agree 100%. And then, of course, we had Dan join the fray. And what did he always play with? What other weapons had he played with other than the hunting horn? I can't even remember. But I remember once he switched to hunting horn, we were like, "Oh my God, this is God's gift to our team right here. Yeah. This is a game changer for us." And it was a game changer for us. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Great.
It was really great, and Dan was really good with it because he understood support.
He understood his place.
He understood how to play support, and it was like, okay, my goal is not to rush into the monster and do all the damage. It's to ensure that my team has the boost they need, get healed when they need it. I mean, that was always the greatest thing. If you got the monster to flee, he could play the music to heal you. It was awesome. It was great.
It was really great when we'd see things like double attack boost, large attack boost, health boost up, stamina regen infinite, things like that. There was one fight where I don't think my stamina, other than the first couple of rooms, my stamina never went down. Yeah. So I could just keep going and going and going, and I could just charge the hammer infinitely and run around with it charged until I got to the monster and bam, knocked him in the face.
And then you start combining that stuff with some of your perks from your armor, your high-grade earplugs, which I think is one of the best perks ever, because the monster's going to roar, 3, 4, 5 times during a fight?
At least, maybe
more. That's 5 seconds, basically, where you get to sit there and just wail on him while he stands still. I mean, you talk about an upgrade that basically gives you a huge advantage.
So we've been asked a question in the comments that, now this might be hard for us to answer, but specifically the end of the question. What do we think about the distinguishments between the ranged weapons? So having trouble seeing kind of the difference between the bow gun and the bow. So first of all, heavy bow gun, to my knowledge, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a heavier based, higher damage output based version of the light bow gun. Yep. Heavy, light. I mean, come on, guys. Right? Come on, guys. Help me out here. And so the bow itself, I can't comment on because I don't use it competitively. I don't use it in Monster Hunter. Yep. I don't like the bow. It's not for me. It might be for you. It is not for me.
Yeah, we did have one range player that played with us.
Yep.
It was okay. as long as he didn't hit us.
As soon as he hit us, it became an issue, and it happened. Believe me, it happened.
Yeah, and that's the thing about using range in this game is sometimes just because of how quickly all the characters are moving in the battle, you know, it's hard to find your place.
To use a ranged weapon, first of all, in my mind, if you're playing in a team, the ranged weapons are all support. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Except for maybe heavy bowgun, maybe in the right situations. There's definitely cluster shots, Craig shots, these explosive shots. They do a ton of damage, and they can very easily pull monsters out of the sky. And I think that's important when you're playing in a team situation.
That's some good stuff.
Instead of letting the monster flee, now they're stuck here in the same room with you.
Yeah.
But I think what distinguishes the heavy bowgun from the bow is just the damage output in general.
You know, it's going to be slower firing too, obviously.
Yeah, can be, yes.
You know, so I mean, you have those things, and I think it's just like we talked about a little earlier in the video, just the cadence of the weapon. You know, your attack combos, how many shots you can fire, how long you can, the distance.
The bow the bow is a weapon that you're typically running with, and
the movement,
firing.
How fast can you move
and
with
then
a heavy bowgun?
A heavy bowgun is more typically you're stationary, you're aiming, do big shot, or you're going down and you're mounting it like we saw in the trailers, and it's a big shot. You know,
and it's more about positioning.
Yep, tons of damage, more about positioning, more about hitting weak points and picking your shots, and maybe not sitting there and arrow, charge, arrow. You know, like with the bow, you just keep going and going and going. But with these bowguns, specifically the heavy bowgun, it requires a little bit slower pace.
That and probably more anticipation of where the monster is going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the one cool thing about some of those weapons is sometimes they'll get rapid fire, and they'll get rapid fire on like a cluster shot or a Craig shot, and so they'll take one round of cluster or Craig and they'll turn it into 2 or 3 or 4 shots. So that's where you really get those big extensions on those heavy ammo types. I like that. I think that was really cool.
Yep.
I do. I always thought it was cool.
I'm hoping that there's a little more added for the range weapons in this.
I would like to see them somehow make the range weapons more relevant.
Yeah. I never really felt that they were something that I could play effectively personally. So it would be good to see that. I don't know what they can do, honestly. So I don't know. I don't know what it would take, without, to be honest. But I'd like to see there be a little bit more of a, reason.
Improvement on some of those weapons.
A reason
like, why would I pick the bow or the light bow gun or the heavy bow gun? Why would I pick any of these 3 weapons over my hammer, over my gun lance, over my sword and shield? For me, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
Yet, I would like to see there become a reason.
Yes.
Anybody who's used those range weapons, weigh in the comments. I know our YouTube viewers will be seeing this after it's been recorded, but of course, anybody on Twitch, feel free to weigh in and let us know. But you guys on YouTube, hit us up. What are your favorite weapons? I think everybody's got a different favorite weapon. For me, it's the hammer, the greatsword, gun lance, so many other great options. Jdog, sword and shield, longsword, and now he discovered he's really good with the switch axe. So I think that's going to be a good solid weapon for him going forward. Comment down below, let us know your favorite weapons. Like the video if you enjoyed it. I'm Neil. We are the Balding Plebs, and as always, I'll see you right here next time. Good night.